Hello, and welcome to this episode of Firearms Friday at the Wyoming State Museum here in Cheyenne. I'm Evan Green. I'm a volunteer at the museum, and I have this wonderful opportunity to assist the staff in updating the inventory of the firearms in our permanent collection. And there's some fairly amazing firearms that I'm very fortunate to be able to examine and research. And as an added bonus, I get to share some of that information with you in these little videos. So today we're going to talk about a couple of revolvers that were the primary issue to Union troops during the Civil War. And they were the Remington Model 1861, sometimes referred to as the model of 1858, and the 1860 model of the Colt percussion revolver. Now, disclaimer, this is the real thing. This is an Italian replica. And we're using this replica because the actual Remington revolvers that we have in the collection, we don't want to operate them and mess with them. In some cases, they are so corroded that you couldn't. But again, these were the two main revolvers issued to Union troops during the Civil War. Roughly 130,000 of the Colt 1860 Army revolver, which is a .44 caliber, and about 125,000 of the Remington Model 1861. Now, the Remington had some certain advantages over the Colt, and we'll demonstrate those advantages with this replica revolver. Now, this is a Pieta that was manufactured in Italy, and it is fully functional and capable of firing with the appropriate cartridges or loose powder, round balls, and percussion caps. One of the things that was an advantage of the Remington is that it tends to be a sturdier revolver because of this top strap over the top of the cylinder. And you'll note that the Colt is what's called an open top, does not have a top strap. So it was a sturdier revolver, less inclined to shoot loose. And another advantage was that it was very easy to partially disassemble. So to take the cylinder out of the Remington, you dropped this loading lever down, make sure it doesn't bind on the cylinder, pull that arbor pin forward, and this is the pin that the cylinder rotates on. And what's neat is it is a captured pin, so you will not lose that critical part of your revolver when you take it apart. And then the cylinder just comes out. And the advantage of this is that it was possible to carry additional loaded and capped cylinders for the Remington revolver. So you shot your 6 rounds, you took out the empty cylinder, put it in your pouch, retrieved another loaded cylinder, and it went right in. Inserted the pin back in, closed the loading lever, and you were loaded and ready to go again. So, again, I stress that this is a modern replica of the Remington 1858 or 1861 percussion revolver. Interesting firearm. Now let's take a look at the Colt 1860 Army, which was, again, a standard issue. It came out in 1860 and was purchased by the U.S. government for issue to Union troops, primarily cavalry. So it has a bit different way of being disassembled. You will note that on the off side, there is this wedge, and that's what holds the gun together. So if you remove that wedge, at that point, the barrel assembly slides forward, okay? So you've got now the barrel, this little wedge, which if you drop in the dirt is probably pretty hard to find, and the cylinder slides off of the cylinder pin or arbor, as it's known in this case. And you could, as with the Remington, have separate loaded cylinders, but you got 3 pieces now, in your hand, and it's somewhat awkward to replace that cylinder with a loaded cylinder. Could be done, and again, you'll see that minus that top strap, it is not as sturdy a revolver as the Remington. So it goes back together the same way, and we insert the wedge to hold it in place. So we have the 1860 Army and the 1858 or 1861 replica Remington revolver. And as is true today, individuals had their own preference as to which revolver they liked the best and preferred to carry. Both of them were used in the American frontier in the West after the Civil War. And even after the introduction of cartridge revolvers, lots of people still used the percussion revolvers. Wild Bill Hickok, a classic example, who carried Colt Navy revolvers, percussion revolvers, long after cartridge revolvers or cartridge conversions were available for purchase and use. So, 1860 Remington replica, 1861 Remington replica, 1860 original Colt Army. So this one, again, very, very nice revolver, and has some interesting features. You'll note that on the butt there's this little square indentation, and on the side this milled piece right here where this part of the recoil shield is milled away, and that's on both sides. It's milled away here, and the reason for those features is that this could be fitted with a wooden shoulder stock to convert it into a carbine, which was probably more accurate because you could hold it steady. It was probably more accurate than the revolver itself, but somewhat awkward because you would have a shoulder stock sticking out about this far. So, interesting original 1860 Army Colt revolver, cut for a shoulder stock, and a replica 1861. Thanks for watching our videos. If you have comments or questions, please record those comments in the appropriate section or stop by the museum and chat with us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.